Tormented Remains, Part 2. The Reverend Mother Prava leads the cathedral light. Even now, after the devastating failure of a knight penitent to stop Lilith, and after the death of Anarius, she continues to preach with the same fervor. Unless she is truly a mindless fanatic, I can only conclude that something other than faith compels her. Her zeal and jealousy have led her to issue a decree in which she has the hypocritical audacity to blame the Horadrim for Lilith's resurgence. Consequently, we are to be eradicated. This might prove inconvenient if the Horadrim still existed in a substantive way, but it is no more than a minor irritation. The cathedral has not yet attained the kind of power it would take to carry out such a decree, and the Horadrim still have many friends. That said, to completely ignore Prava and the cathedral would be foolhardy. She is a formidable adversary who may yet find ways to cause damage and suffering. Though Donan was not a druid, he did live among them and wore furs after their kind. His cloak of wolf pelts recalls their nature magic of shape-shifting, and it is well suited to the climate of Skosklin. It keeps out the biting wind and rain, and it warms against the cold mist. The fur has been rubbed away in places from heavy use. It carries at least one burn mark, where I imagine Donan sat too close to the fire on some frosty night. There are many bloodstains, some brown and old, some new. They speak loudly of Donan's valiance, and I will not silence them by trying to clean them. To the south, in the cities of Kejistan, Horadrim of the past wore fine embroidered robes that smell of rare and costly incense. Donan's cloak smells of musk, leaves, and wood smoke, and the crude stitching has been repaired many times over. It is a humble garment, and yet I believe Donan felt pride when he wore it. A bronze clasp holds the cloak in place about my shoulders, which Donan must have made custom by a local blacksmith. It combines the Horadric symbol with a druidic wolf's head, and the workmanship is quite fine. I will wear both as I go forth on my journey as personal talismans. The cloak will defend me against the elements as I travel south from Skosklin into the fractured peaks. More importantly, it will help me remember all that Donan gave. Even before his death, he had lost everything. His wife, his son, and finally his faith as he witnessed the failure of Anarius and the cathedral. His sacrifices must not have been in vain. It is time for me to begin my journey, but before I depart, there is another relic I must acquire. The ancient oak tree the druids call Glor Anfida is perhaps their greatest teacher and most revered source of wisdom. I am obviously not a druid, and I have not been trusted with full knowledge of their ways or access to their sacred sites. I do know that Glor Anfida stands the Druids' College of Tuldura. To the visitor with a knowledge of lore and awareness of magic, this fallen, overgrown place is one of deep hidden mystery. When I passed near the walls of Tuldura, I sensed whispered conversations happening just beyond my comprehension, as if the rocks, the trees, and the animals were in constant communication. I could not hear. The druids can hear it, and they understand it. They know the languages and the songs of the earth, and they can even add their voices. They draw their strength from the land itself. For reasons you will understand later, I need an object imbued with this wild magic, grown from the earth and the rain of Skosklin. I am honored that a druid chieftain has granted me one single leaf from Glor Anfida, a gift in recognition of my meager service to her land and people. I carry it with me now as a relic that sprouted from the very roots of Sanctuary. I came to Skosklin in the company of others, and now leave alone. Nairel follows her own path, Carrying a burden I fear will be too much for her, and I can do nothing to help her. Like Donan, I must simply have faith that she will survive the ordeal. Wherever she is, I hope she is staying clear of the cathedral's agents and avoiding cities and towns. The soulstone she carries will spread hatred like a contagion. I admit, I find the prospect of my journey daunting. When I was a younger man, I enjoyed the thrill of the road. Travel made the world larger and smaller at the same time. The lure of distant cities and lands is one of the things that called me to the Horadric Order. Now, I am an old man who has seen too much. The Skoskland hills to the south are becoming steeped and ragged. In the distance, they break like green waves against the towering fractured peaks. Behind me, rolling downs tumble away toward the forest and the frozen sea. The air up here is already clearer, freed from the damp that oppresses the moors. It grows colder. I woke this morning to frost on the fringes of Dona's fur cloak. The dry steppes slide to the southwest. I went there recently in pursuit of Elias, and I wonder what remains of the archive at the Orbe monastery. Elias slaughtered almost every monk. The fire likely destroyed many of the relics and records. But archives like that tend to house things that can survive fires. One day, I might return there to see what is left. Today, I will continue south into the mountains to Kiovashad. I am tired and stopped to make camp early today. A pack of wargs attacked last night. I fought them off with a bit more difficulty than they would have once given me. I did not sleep much after that. Such encounters are often the first welcome travelers receive when entering the fractured peaks. If it weren't so cold, I could smell the pine trees. There hasn't been a storm for several days, so the snow is passable. It only rises to my thighs and weighs where the wind has piled drifts. After the warg attack a few nights ago, I now build 3 or 4 small fires and sleep in the middle of them. They help with heat, and the flames also deter creatures accustomed to hunting in the long and dark mountain nights. Not all creatures, but most. I should reach my cabin sometime tomorrow. I saw a group of cathedral monks on the road today, and I removed myself from their path before they noticed me. Then I waited until they were gone before I resumed my journey. I am not afraid of them. I simply didn't want the hassle or delay. The city of Kiovashad is the perfect expression of this region. The width and depth of its moat alone suggest that it was built to repel threats of immense proportions. The walls are less those of a town than a fortress under constant siege. Kiovashad also reflects the people who choose to live there in the fractured peaks. Their defenses may be daunting, but inside their walls they are generous and good-humored. They also have a deep respect for privacy. No one survives here alone. And the people of the fractured peaks do not have the luxury of choosing their comrades. Here, your business is your business, which is what drew me to this place. That, and the silence, my cabin will be a welcomed sight. The Cathedral of Light has unfortunately imposed its authority on the culture of the fractured peaks through certain ceremonies and rituals. One of these takes place at the gates of Kiovashad, a rite of passage to enter the city. Travelers are asked to inscribe a sin they have committed on the plank of cedar wood. This written confession is then burned in a bonfire. I suspect the tradition of communal cleansing through fire has existed in these parts for some time, and the cathedral merely subsumed the existing practice into its structure, as churches so often do. The original ritual may have served to foster trust in expunging past offenses to more quickly interrogate a newcomer or stranger into the community. It is a symbolic way of saying that one's past does not matter, so long as it remains there. The cathedral rituals possesses none of those qualities. Instead, it seems designed to assert dominance over the people and make them subservient and accountable to the church. That is why I refuse to perform the ceremony. There is nothing holy in it. I have carried this blade for many years. At my age, it serves as a walking stick more often than a weapon, though it can still cleave, slash, and stab when necessary. Its design is similar to a glaive, but with 2 cutting edges instead of 1. The blade is forged from hard steel the color of pewter and is the length of my forearm. Its heel is adorned with a version of the heraldic symbol that ends near the base. The staff is my height, with a heavy metal foot that can deliver a compelling blow if a non-lethal warning is all I require. When I am cleaning it after a battle or honoring its edges, I sometimes imagine my father's disdain for such a blade. He viewed pole arms as the weapons of poor farmers, little more than glorified field implements. He preferred swords, both to forge and to wield, and that must have been on my mind when I chose this weapon from the heraldic armory. I was still rebelling then, defying him, even though I had long since left his shop behind. My choices served me well. I have slain countless demons, beasts, and human foes with my polearm. Even Boradnar would have admitted his admiration. While I am by no means an expert herbalist, I keep a mortar and pestle in my cabin like those used by skilled healers. Mine is made of black marble, worn to ash and grey by many years of use. It was a gift from a woman I once knew named Kadala. Her father was a merchant, a man named Gid. Kadala claimed he had acquired the mortar and pestle from Akara, the high priestess of the Sisterhood of the Sightless Eye. Apparently, Gid and Akara were both living in the same encampment after the fall of the East Gate Monastery to the demon Andariel. If true, that would make this mortar and pestle a significant relic, for Akara was widely known as a powerful healer. If not true, I would still treasure this relic for myself.